Good morning, everyone. We had, I think, started with letter writing. All of us had written one sample letter. Right. So now let's see what we need to add. Right. What are the things that we need to see in formal letter writing as per what we have been given in the syllabus? Right. So I'll just switch on the presentation. So just a quick revision of what we had talked about. A letter actually is a written message. It makes you convey your messages in a more concrete form. Moreover, it is an important document which keeps a record in an organization. Maybe a person might shift from an organization, but this record remains with the organization permanently. Here we have used the word medium because, as you know now, maximum of the companies would type the letters, not handwrite them. But there are still a few companies who would write the letters. Now, even if you are typing the letter, some of us would add a digital signature and send it via an email. Others would take a printout, sign it, put it in an envelope, address the envelope, and then send it. Right. So that's why the word usage is medium and not anything else. Right. We had also understood. I hope we had. Have we talked about the seven C's? I'm asking a question. Have we talked about the seven C's or is it pending? It's pending. Okay, great. Fine. So, if you are sitting with a book and a pen, if you are not, kindly grab your book for ETC and your pen because this is one of the most important questions pertaining to exam because we are supposed to see the end also in our mind. We are supposed to keep the end. So, wherever you wish, you note it down. Please note it down at a place where you can find it. So, note down this is an important question. The seven C's of a good letter. This question can be asked in a few different ways. So I'll repeat the few ways in which they can be answered or it can be answered, and I'll be then explaining the seven C's. So write a short note on the seven C's of a good letter, or explain the seven C's of a good letter. Instead of good letter, we can replace the word good letter with letter writing. It is one and the same. That's different ways of forming the question. One more way the question can be formed is enlist the seven C's of a good letter, or enlist the seven C's of good letter writing. So if you wish, I'll repeat slowly if you are noting it somewhere. Instead of noting the question formation, what you can notice that from letter writing, unit number 2 has a lot of weightage if we look at it from the exam point of view. So this is one of the important questions that can be asked. So the seven C's of letter writing or seven C's of a good letter is how the question can be asked, right? How will it differ? It will differ according to the marks. So when I say enlist the seven C's of letter writing, it is a 3-mark question where you just have to write the seven C's with one line explanation, not more. The list of the seven C's and one line explanation. Let's say if I'm talking about being clear. So what do I say over here? Please remember, these are because it's a PowerPoint presentation, I have used important words. You need to form a sentence out of it. Do not write it as it is, okay? You need to form a sentence. So I have written clear. So you have to be clear about what you want to say. So instead of just writing be clear about what you want to say, what you can do is you can write a letter when it is written should be clear, or we should be clear what we want to say in the letter. Right? Form a sentence. These are important words. These are the key words that have been picked up over here because it's a PowerPoint. Fine. When you are supposed to list it, and if it is a 3-mark question, if it is a 4-mark question, a little elaboration. So what do you mean by clarity? So information that you want to pass on should be mentioned over there in the letter, right? And if it is a 7-mark question, then you have to write an example as well. So what, when I say, let's for example, if I say I want to be clear, what do I explain? For example, if the letter is a congratulatory letter, we should mention congratulations, pass on our best wishes, and also include the desire to come and visit the new venture, is what should be included when I mean to say clarity or being clear. Right, that is how you write the answer. Now let's see the 7 C's of letter writing. If you see, every verb begins with the letter C. That's why it's called the 7 C's. Right. So first C is being clear. If it is a congratulatory letter, it should not sound like a condolence letter. Right. Clarity means whatever the letter type it should be sounding like that type only. Let's say I am writing to inquire about variety of products available in a market. What do I do? I should not sound like I'm just doing a survey. I should sound genuinely interested. So I should be very clear. I don't want everything from the market. Will I buy everything? No. I have a particular choice. Let's say I want to buy stationery. Now, stationery is a huge umbrella term. I'm not going to buy each and every stationery which is available. I have a specific requirement according to my position, according to the organization where I work. So what is your specific requirement? That you have to be clear. Let's say my office requires printing papers. It requires certain ball pens. Now in ball pen also you require which color, what is the ink color that is required. So that is what I mean when I say that the letter should be clear. For you or for us, we feel that it is a very minute detail, but it will make a lot of difference when somebody reads your letter and gives you marks for it. So the first C of letter writing is being clear. Whatever you want to say, you could not or you should not be beating around the bush. You should be talking about it very clearly. Next, you have to be concise. Again, you don't require a lengthy letter. Remember, letter should not be more than 2 A4 size pages when you write it. See, when I say when you write it, the reason is because some of our handwritings are bigger, others have small handwritings, so we cannot say just 1 page. One. Secondly, some of us leave lines in between. Right? We have a habit of leaving the line, or we have a habit of having an extra margin. Already the answer booklet has a margin, but we also draw a margin with our scale. Right? That's why I'm saying a maximum of 2 pages when you write it, but not more than 1 page when you type it. Not more than 1 page when you type it, because type settings are fixed in the computer. Right? So it's 1 A4 size. So be concise. It means you need to be using simple words or related vocabulary and say only what is needed. Right? Let's say we all have written a congratulatory letter. You have done very well. You have, almost everybody has adhered to this 7 C's knowingly, unknowingly. Certain small changes are there. That is fine. That would happen. I cannot, talk first to my friend by saying, I met your auntie yesterday, and when we met, we had a lot of talk, and suddenly your auntie remembered I was not there in the opening of your new venture, and then she told me, and then I came to know. Right? That would not sound concise. Concise means one of your relatives I accidentally met one of your relatives, and from her I came to know about your new venture. The same story said in 2 lines. That's it. Right? So that's what I mean when we say that the letter should be concise. Then concrete. Use the exact words and phrases. Some of you have made excellent use of vocabulary in the letters that you have typed. Right? Excellent usage of vocabulary is there. But the same set of vocabulary can you use when you will write another type of a letter? Let's say you are congratulating your friend and all. Now you are supposed to write a letter to apply for your job. Can you use the same set of vocabulary? No. Right? So what do we need to do? Why have are we mentioning the exact words and phrases over here? Why is it mentioned? Because every kind of letter or every kind of writing has its own set of vocabulary. By own set of vocabulary, I mean there are certain words which can be used only in one kind of letter and not in the other kind. Similarly, the other kind of letter has its own vocabulary. Right? So what do we need to do? We need to remember that, let's say if it is a congratulatory letter, we few words that we can use is, I'm very happy for you, congratulations on your new business, good wishes for future perspective, or maybe you can say, I have seen your leaflets, they are really beautiful. If help is required, kindly contact me, or I'll contact you and we can discuss your business. One of my uncles is also in such kind of business, so you can also have an overview. Right? These are a few words that are quite in synchronization with the congratulatory letter. The rest of the things may remain same, like exchanging pleasantries, wishing luck, or the sentence structures. But congratulating, giving best wishes, telling the person that you could help anytime you want any kind of work. You can say, as I'm in the marketing sector, in my organization, what I can do is I can help you with a promotional event. Right? All that will come only for this letter. Now, if I'm inquiring or I'm having an inquiry in the market, what will I do? There will be a certain words which are associated to inquiry letters. So that's why proper vocabulary, proper phrases. Right? Next, correct. Your letter should be correct. By correct, we not only mean the words that are correct, but we mean each and every aspect of language to be correct. Not only the structure of the letter should be correct, but also what you have written should be correct. Now, correctness means correct spellings, correct punctuation marks, correct language, and correct grammar. One sentence in future tense and one in past is not what is allowed. Right? Few sentences written in passive voice and the rest few written in active voice, not suitable for letters. So by correctness over here will mean everything should be correct. So proper spellings, proper usage of language, proper grammar, and proper sentence structures. By sentence structure, I mean if you want to have an active sentence, passive sentence, what tense you are using. You should see that things don't mix and match in the entire letter. It should remain the same. Right? Coherent. By being coherent, I mean it should look as if it's a natural flow. By natural flow, we mean it should be going smoothly, not like bumps and potholes that we have on our roads in this rainy season. Right? A smooth transition from one idea to another is what coherent or being coherent means. Here, you should see that the main body is coherent with the subject line. Whatever you have mentioned in the subject line, let's say inquiry for furniture, and then you don't even ask about any one part of the furniture. Right? What could be included in furniture? Tables, chairs, desks, stools. Right? This is all part the sofa set. This is all the part of a furniture inquiry, if you wish to do. Right? So, being coherent means whatever you are writing in the subject line should be related to what has been written in the main body and vice versa. Right? So it should be like a smooth flow, not a bumpy ride. You cannot ask in an inquiry letter to a furniture company that, very nice about your furniture. Do you have somebody who can help me with the cabling or the wiring? Do you have somebody in mind who can sell me computers? No, please don't do that. Or you are not supposed to do that. That's what we mean by being coherent. Then complete. Your message should be completed. By completion, we mean over here that whatever information you are required, it should not be like something which is hanging in air. It should come to a completion at the third paragraph. As I said, there should be 3 paragraphs in a letter, 2 or 3 at the max. So if it is a 3 paragraph letter, the third paragraph should be a concluding paragraph which completes the whole thing. So usually what we complete the letter with is waiting for your positive reply, or I hope you'll be replying to me soon, something like that. And the last is being courteous. Even if we are angry about something, you have to be very respectful and friendly. Though it is honest, though it is a little bitter, but you have to be courteous. So let's say I have ordered certain stuff. See, when we order from online websites, it's a very 15-day return policy. You just have to fill up certain things, certain details, and the person collects it, right? But the same does not happen when you have collaborated with some organization. You have to draft a complaint. They will reply to your complaint, and then things work, right? We don't have a preset formula for it. So you have to be very courteously said it was we had ordered many stuff and you have been sending good things to us, but I don't know, somehow this time it did not work, something like that. So these are the 7 C's of a good letter or good letter writing: clear, or being or having clarity; concise; concrete; correct; coherent; complete; and courteous. These are the 7 C's of a good letter writing. Important question from the perspective of exam. So you can just make a note somewhere in a book which you might have prepared for the subject etc. This is one of the important questions. I'll upload the PPT also at the end of the lecture, after the lecture session goes well. So these are the different purposes. We have already discussed this. I had asked, or maybe if I have not asked, then what is the purpose? Why do we write letters? So we write to inform people, we write to inquire, we write to place requests, we write letters to complain, to congratulate, to order stuff, to make adjustments, to apply for a job, and to collect dues. No? Let's say you have taken a loan from the bank and you were unable to pay the EMI this month. You would receive a written intimation from the bank that you have missed paying the EMI. That's a letter that you can consider a type of collecting dues letter. Right? So, a reconnecting question: which C is not a part of the 7 C's of effective letter writing? Completeness, coordination, consideration. See, please remember, when I use the word coordination here, I mean the coordination in the letter, not the coordination between 2 people. Please understand, the same question can be asked in different ways. So if I'm talking about communication, I'll be talking about coordination between 2 people. Here I'm asking about the 7 C's of effective letter writing. So I'm talking about the coordination or the coherence between the paragraphs. Right? So which one of the 4 options which are given is not a part of the 7 C's of effective letter writing? So the options are completeness, coordination, consideration, and copy notation. Excellent. All of you have answered it correctly. It's D, copy notation. It is a part of the letter writing, but it is not a part of the 7 C's of the letter. Right? Excellent work. So that's the answer, copy notation. Now the elements of a business letter. Now there are two categories of the elements. Remember, here the question will not be asked as if you write the categories. The question can be most probably asked for you to draft a letter, which includes all this uh, elements or the structure. Remember, the chronology over here is very important. You cannot uh, change the order in which things are written. Why? Because that's how it is structured. You cannot change the structure. Fine. Most of you have been writing it very nicely, so we just have to add or insert what we have missed. Right? So do not make any changes in letter 1 that you have written. Just keep a note of it, how you have written and what things were missing. Now, if you see, there is one column which says the standard elements. It's written the elements of business letters. So the first column says the standard elements. The second column says it is the additional elements. Now remember, by additional elements, why it is additional? It is also a part of the structure, but not every letter will require every element from the additional section. Additional elements are required in special cases. Remember, additional elements of the letter are required in special cases. Once we start understanding the structure, I'll be giving examples as where the additional element is required, right? So don't worry about that part. So we begin with the heading, then the date, the inside address, the salutation, subject line, the body of the letter, the complementary clause, the signature, and then the enclosure. And then the enclosure. Now, what is the heading? Before we do that, the block layout. The layout that we are going to use is called the block layout. Here, everything should be aligned to the left. All the elements in the letter would be aligned to the left. Now, if you are confused between which left and which right, uh, if you are typing on the computer, Microsoft Word will help you. You have an alignment. If you are writing, then everything to the side of the margin. Okay, everything, all elements to be aligned to the side of the margin. Now, why block layout? I remember in school times we had this different way of writing letters. Certain elements of the letter on the right, certain on the left. Right now, but what has happened? See, that format of writing a letter is also correct. It is known as the semi-block layout. But because we have expanded globally, not only we, the entire world has expanded globally. So there should be something which is common. Now, to have this commonness, this layout of aligning everything to the left is what is universally accepted. See, it does not mean that if you are writing a left right combination, it is incorrect. But this layout is a little more simplified. You need not remember which element on the left and which element on the right, because every element will come on the left. Moreover, it has now been accepted globally, and it is the most versatile and most used layout. And that is why we are also following the block layout, which has become a standard layout of letter writing throughout the world. Right? It is the most used format of letter layout. Right? It does not mean that the other formats are incorrect, but we will be using this format because this is the one which has been used in maximum of the organizations. So the first element in the structure is the heading. Now, can you tell me whether the heading is the sender's address or the receiver's address? Excellent. It is the sender's address. Now, very good. Now, if you are able to view the PPT, there are two ways of writing the sender's address. One is the institute address, and two is called the individual sender. Now, remember, when you are writing with the help of an institute address, this is the only exception. This is the only exception in the block layer block layout. The only exception is when you are using a company letterhead or a company's name. For writing a letter, the letterhead or the address that is coming over there would be aligned in the center. Would be aligned in the center. This is the only exception. But when you write as an individual sender, it would be aligned to the left as per the block format. Now, you see I have drawn a rectangle over here and there's nothing over here. So this rectangle actually is kind of a representation that this is a letterhead of a company. Let me give you a very simple example. Some of your friends might have received letters from Marwari University on behalf of Marwari University that their attendance is less. Their parents might have received it, and you might have had a chance to look at the letter that the parents received. So there you can see it is actually like the header part. And you can see that the university's name, the symbol, things are there. That's called a letterhead. Now, when they are printed papers of letterheads, you will also have it in the footer part. But when we are writing a letter over here in part of as a part of our exam, we don't require the letterhead in the footer, right? So we'll use it in the center of our page, of our A4 size page. What do? We begin with the company's name, then the address of the company, the full address, that's the street number or the location, and then the city. Now please remember, do not forget to write the pin code. Okay, do not forget to write the pin code. Now then we have a question, madam, how will I know the pin code of different areas of India? What if they ask me that write about this university in New Delhi? What will I write in the pin code? That's a query that should come. Okay. Now here, let me make it very simple. The examiner is not going to see whether you have written the correct pin code to Delhi. We are not supposed to post this letter, right? But yes, the examiner will surely check whether the pin code is correct or not. Correct in the sense, not the true one in Delhi, but the correct one in the form of a structure. Let's say if you have a ATM card, it's a 4-digit number. The PIN is a 4-digit number. Similarly, if you have a mobile phone, the mobile phone is a 10-digit number. Your phone number is a 10-digit number. Similarly, you pick up the PIN code of any city or state of India, it is a 6-digit number. You can count from Rajkot. We have been living in Rajkot. Some of us might have family and friends in Ahmedabad, Jamnagar, Morbi, this side, Gondal, Surennagar, Limri, right? Whatever pin code you search, you can have a search on internet. Whatever pin code it is, the number of digits remains the same. That is 6 digits. So here, instead, because I know the Marwari University pin code, I have written it 36003. If I write it 480001, that is also fine for the examiner. But the number of digits in a pin code is 6. So you should not write less than 6 or more than 6. It should be exactly 6. Right? Please remember this information. We do not require, as an examiner, I do not require the correct pin code of India, any place in India from you. What I require is the correct structure. So for a pin code of a city in India, the uh, structure is 6 digits. It's a digital number, pin code number. So it's the structure that has to be correct, and it should be 6 digits. Please remember. Now, if you write the pin code, you have to write the tagline of the organization. So the tagline of Marwadi University is knowledge is the currency of 21st century. Certain people would be writing taglines like serving you since 1993, 3 generations of services provided, whatever tagline. Again, remember, if the tagline is incorrect, it is fine, but the tagline should be there. And understand, it is a tag line, not a tag sentence. Sentences can go over 1 or 2 lines. It's a tag line, so it should be only in 1 line. 5 to 7 words is what is acceptable, 10 at the most. Then you have to write the contact details. Here again, you can see the area code, 4 digits, right? 3 or 4 digits. Initially, it was 3 digits, 281. Then we added a 0, so it became a 4 digit. Landline numbers would be 8 digit. Right? Don't increase the numbers in the structure. Now, see, I'll give you a very nice tip. In case you are confused, madam, phone number, I could not remember what is the structure. Simple. Every organization will also have a common mobile phone as of the need of today. Every organization would also have a common mobile phone number as per the need of today. So instead of this landline number, be smart and write the mobile number. Write a mobile number. So mobile number, we know it is 10 digits. There is no question of creating a mistake. See why I am emphasizing more on the structure part. If a letter is asked, if you are asked to draft a letter in the university exam, it carries the maximum marks. That is, if a letter is being asked to be draft, it will have 7 marks. Now, how do we examiners give the marks? This 7 marks of letter writing is divided into 2 parts, 3.5 plus 3.5. 3.5 marks are given to the person who has written the correct structure without reading the main body part. If your structure is correct, then 3.5 marks is what you get. Then teacher will read the body part, and then whatever marks he or she feels appropriate according to the language, the usage of appropriate vocabulary, you'll get additional marks. So this structure, the marks for the structure, I consider them to be the cash marks, the marks that anybody can earn easily, because see, now we have got a very simplified structure that is aligning left and right. So few things we have to remember. So please pay attention for this structure part, because it's going to give you cash marks, right? So 2 ways of writing the contact details. Either you drop a landline. So do not forget, when you write a landline number, so before the landline, you have to write the area code, and the landline number would be of 8 digits. If you feel that it's very confusing to remember so many details, then what you can do is you can write a mobile phone number. That mobile phone number would have 10 digits. That's it. There you don't have to write an area code or anything, because remember, though we have become global, but when we write a letter in examination, we are not supposed to go global. We'll stay in India only to avoid other structural problems, right? So mobile phone number where you don't need an area code because you are writing within India. Then email ID, very important. In the letterhead, you have to have the email ID, and you also have to have the website. Now, when you have the email ID and the website, please remember they should match the name of the organization that you have written on the top. Invent one email ID, invent a website. Right? If I'm writing Marwadi University, I cannot write in the website Marwadi Education Foundation Group of Institutions, though they are one and the same. Though they are one and the same. They are an organization which began as Marwadi Education Foundation Group of Institutions. Then the organization worked hard and became a university and became Marwadi University. Right? That's a journey. But if I'm having the title on my header as Marwadi University, The email ID and the website would be Marwadi University. If I am having on my heading Marwadi Education Foundation, a group of institutions, then in the email and the website I'll have the same. Right? It should match. Whatever you are writing, it should match, is what is the concern. The letterhead will always be in the center. I have drawn a square, you can have, sorry, I've drawn a rectangle, you can have a circle or something, but you need to distinguish that this is the letterhead. The most easiest one is drawing a rectangle. Right? One more example which I can give of a letterhead is a doctor's prescription. God bless, nobody has visited a doctor recently, but in the past years, when you would have visited a doctor, he or she would have given you a prescription of medicines. Right there, you can see, to distinguish that page as the letterhead of the doctor, and then the writing space, there'll always be a small line, a border sort of a thing. Maybe a thick border or two thin borders and one thick border. Right? So this is the same thing you have to do when you write using a company letterhead in the examination. Do not forget to draw a rectangular box around it. It's the simplest way of distinguishing that this is a letterhead. I hope I am clear about it. This is the heading when you are writing as a part of a company letterhead. Now, if you are writing the letter as an individual person, yes, you are associated to Marwadi and you are writing a letter. See, when Marwadi University orders stationery, they'd be using the letterhead. But at certain places, let's say you want to have a recommendation letter from your head of the department, your HOD, right? You want to study in some foreign university, and the university requires a recommendation letter. That time, though the Marwadi stamp and logo is there, sir would be writing from his side. He's not writing from the side of the university. He's writing from his side as an individual. So what do? We write the person's full name with proper addressing to the person. Let's say if the person is professor, you write a professor. If the person is miss, you write miss, Mr., Mrs. And if the person has a degree which you need to mention, like for example, if the person is a PhD, you write doctor. If the person is an engineer, you write ER, DR for doctor, ER for engineers, and so forth and so on. Proper addressing should be there. Then the designation of the person, then the address, the city, and then the PIN code. Now, if you see, what I have done is, here you do not see any punctuation marks. Right? Anywhere there is no punctuation marks except for the full stops that you have in the email and the website. No punctuation mark in the address. And here I have got punctuation marks everywhere. Remember, either you punctuate the letter fully or you don't punctuate it at all. Both the methods are correct. That means if I drop the comma at the senior manager, I'm supposed to drop the comma at Aroma Industries. I have to drop the comma at Vatva, and I have to drop the full stop after the PIN code. Or if I have a comma at the senior manager, I have to have a comma at the industries, I have to have a comma at Vatva, I have to have a comma at I have to have a full stop after the PIN code. Either you punctuate it, all punctuated, or you can have an open punctuation where you don't punctuate at all. Right? So whatever you find comfortable, both the methods are correct. Next, we need to write the date. Why a date? Because certain letters, when they are written, you have to go back to certain letters. Right? Let's say, let me take you a very simple example. When you order products online, right? Take it any platform, Amazon, Flipkart, AGO, any platform you are ordering. What do? They give you an order number. And what are the details in your in that order number? They give you when did you place the order, which date. Why? In case in case it so happens that you have to return the product. The company is not going to take it back after you use it for 2 months, 3 months, and then you say, no, no, now I'm not comfortable with this. Every company has a return policy. How will it calculate the return policy? Right? So they have this details. Whenever each order is made, they will have a detail that at this time the order was placed. This was the time period after which the order was delivered. And after delivery, these are our guidelines, or this is our policy for returning the product. Right? So the date gives the letter a validation. Right? That's why we need to write the date. Now there are two methods of writing the date, the British way and the American way. Please remember, never write only digits when you are writing the date in a letter. Why? Because there is a huge difference in the British way of writing the date and the American way. The Britishers, they write the date first, the month, and then the year. That's the order they follow. That's DDMMYY. Whereas the Americans follow first the month, then the date, and then the year. So that is MMDDYY. What if I write 08072020? How will I understand? Are you talking about the 8th day of the 7th month or the 7th day of the 8th month? After the numbers are above 12, we might interpret it, right? But below that, will you be writing every letter after the 12th of the month? No, right? So please remember, this is very important. We have been habituated of writing dates and digits, but when we write letters or when we write or draft any important document, right, at that time, please note the date, not in digits, but in words as well. Now here you can see there are, in each type, there are two ways. See, all the four ways of writing the date is correct. If the format which is given is followed, all the four ways are correct. Right? If you see, I have written, if you are rating the British way, it's 25th June 2012. And when I same date I write in the American way, I've written June 25, 2012. So if the number comes before the month, you write the TH, the ST, the RD, right? That's the ordinals. And if the month comes first and the date comes next, you don't write it. Pick any one. Now you see, sometimes, we forget, where do I put a comma? Do I put a comma? If you punctuate, you have to put a comma after the month and then a full stop after the year. If you don't punctuate, no punctuations at all. Right? Pick any one style. Don't mix the style. So I say teacher has said June 25, 2012 is correct. But you cannot write June 25th. You cannot have the TH if you are writing the month first. So remember that part. Next is called the inside address or the address of the receiver. Even this is written in two different ways. One, if you know the person's name. So when you know the person's name, that we write as we write the address of the sender. Similarly, that is a proper salutation or proper prefix against the person's name, the person's designation, the department, the university, the state where the person belongs to, the city where the person belongs to. Now, why a second method also of writing? If you take up certain sectors of business or certain sectors of certain organizations, people will have transferable jobs. I'll give you a very simple example. The bank. The manager of the bank has a transferable job. Maybe I do not know the tenure. Let's say I have met the business bank manager, very nice person. I know the name and everything. But I don't know when he joined the bank, when will his transfer be, or has he also asked for a transfer. They don't tell us, and we don't even ask such things. We should not be asking such things, in fact. So what do I do in such cases? Where I'm quite aware that this is a transferable job, a person can be transferred and we do not know the tenure at which the person transfers, then we know that we have to write the letter with the designation. So if you have seen your parents writing letters to the bank for any case, they'll not write the name of the person, they'll write the designation. So, say for example, the general manager. Please avoid writing to and from, right? From in the sender part and to in the receiver part. That is understood because that's the structure. The structure has been globally accepted. So, no need to write extra words to and from, right? So, you don't write to the general manager when we are writing letters, right? So, you write general manager, the general manager. Please remember the article should be there. The means the one who is associated with this particular company. The general manager of Lion Industries Limited. Right? The general manager of SBI main branch, Rajkot. Right? That's why do not forget the article the. Right? Don't just write general manager. So these are very small things, but they could deduct your marks. That's where the marks deduction happens. So remember to write the article the, because you have to be very specific. You are not talking about any general manager. You are talking about the general manager of the SBI Bank, the State Bank of India, if you see, of Rajkot or of Ahmedabad or of Mumbai or whatever place you are talking about. And then the rest of the details remains the same. Next, the subject line. Though at certain places people mention that subject line, if it is there it's okay, if it is not there it is okay, but we insist on having a subject line in the structure of block format or the block layout of letter, because subject line makes it easier for the sender as well as the receiver. How does it make it things easier? For the sender, what to write in the main body, and for the receiver, what to expect in the main body. Remember, it is not the subject sentence. Again, see the usage of words. Right? The word itself will tell you how much to write. So it is called the subject line and not the subject sentence. So here again, not more than 5 to 7 words. I've given a few examples. Inquiry for, order for, permission for, and then whatever you are asking for. Complaint for, order number 36 that we placed, right? So you can write complaint for order 36. Complaint regarding late delivery of products, right? Asking for adjustment or asking for refund. That's it. That's the subject line. So they understand that the letter is concerned about asking for refund. The letter is concerned about inquiry for computers. The letter is an order letter there where the person wants to place some order. So remember, it's a subject line, so no full stops. It's not a subject sentence. Then the salutation. Till now, we have been writing respected for every person above in the line. Here in our letters, it is suggested dear sir or dear ma'am. That's the formal salutation which is widely accepted now. If you know the person's name, you can write the name with the correct, again with the correct addressing to the person. So, dear Mr. Tapan Trivedi, dear Mr. Tapan Patel, dear Miss Bhumi Trivedi, dear Mrs. Madhu Shukla, or here in case it is dear Dr. Madhu Shukla, at whatever it is acceptable. Now here, why I have written sir oblique ma'am, you are not supposed to write sir oblique ma'am in every letter you write. You have to decide the gender on your own. You cannot have two things, you have to decide one. So dear sir, comma, or dear madam, comma. Right? Because when you are writing letters, be specific about it. So this is one of the things about being specific. Next, the content of the letter. At least 2 paragraphs or more. When I say more, 2 to 3. 3 is the maximum. The opening paragraph, the second paragraph, and the last paragraph. The first where you write how you came to know about the company. Let's say I came to know about your company from my business partner, and now I also want to do business with you. Second, what kind of a business you want to do. So I know that you have an uh, company that supplies stationery. I'd like to buy stationery for my organization. And the last paragraph to conclude things. That's one example which I'm citing, but I'm trying to tell you how it works. Next, just like you have a salutation, this is the mirror of salutation, that is the complementary close. So you should be taking a courteous leave and it should match the salutation. Let's say you are writing to your head of the department, you can use the complementary clauses like yours obediently, yours sincerely. If I am writing the same letter in your place, if I am writing the letter to your head of the department, I'll write yours faithfully. Why? You are writing as a student, I am writing as a colleague. That's the difference. At either ways it is correct, yours faithfully or faithfully yours. Now please remember, when you are writing the salutation and when you are writing the complementary clause, it is inevitable to mark a comma. Even if the entire letter you don't have a punctuation mark, you don't have a punctuation mark in the sender's address or the receiver's address or in the date, then also in salutation and in complementary clause, the comma is inevitably supposed to be present, right? You cannot not write a comma, so that you can mark out that whether you are punctuating or not punctuating. In salutation, the comma is there after sir, dear sir, comma, and in the complementary clause, yours faithfully, comma. uh, Remember, at times they would just write draft a suitable letter to a stationery shop to inquire about stationery, or to inquire about required stationery that you wish to buy for your organization. Here nothing is given, no information is given to you, so here you are supposed to invent information, right? Inventing means you have to write somebody's name. As I said, you cannot write ABC or XYZ, you have to give it a proper name, right? So that also you need to remember. Last, the part which authenticates the letter after the date is the part where you write a signature or you give your signature, right? A signature gives the letter authenticity. If the letter is not signed, it is it is considered incomplete, and it does not have any worth more than a piece of paper. Does not have the worth more than a piece of paper. It's similar to a check. When you would want to withdraw money from the account, you cannot give a blank check. You can give a blank check in terms of the figure, but you should not. But when I say a blank check, if it is not signed, even if it is of any amount, you will not get a single rupee being paid by the bank. Similarly, your letter is authenticated once you sign it. Remember, here, I know you are honest people, but you are not supposed to do your bank signature over here. You are supposed to invent a signature, right? We are not going to cross verify whether it's your correct signature or not, so invent one. Moreover, make sure the signature matches the name, right? I have written the name of a boy and I'm signing in the name of a girl, or vice versa. Don't do that, right? So invent a signature, and if you can see, signatures do not fit into the lines of a book. Take anybody's signature. The signature, one of the distinct qualities of signatures is it does not fit into the line of somebody's book. So make sure that it looks like a signature, even if it is a very simple one with 2-3 initials and the surname. That's absolutely fine. No need of such fancy signatures. This is something I got from the internet, so I can paste it, right? So no need for such a fancy signature, but make sure it matches a little matching is there with the name. So after you sign, You have to write the sender's name and the entire address that you have written in the beginning of the letter, that same you have to copy paste, right? Though enclosure is an additional element, but nowadays it has become more standard. Why? You attach. Things do not work without proofs. So how do we prove things? With attachments. Now, let's say I'll give you a very simple example. On Amazon, I want to return a product. What do they ask for? They ask for a picture of the damaged good or the reason why you are giving it back. They'd also refer back to your order number, and they'll also refer how you made the payment. If you want your money back, they'll refer, and they'll also tell you that their policy of returning the amount would be 1, 2, or 3, whatever it is. Right? So enclosures are actually elements, and enclosures are actually documents that you attach as a part of proof. Like, let's say I buy something from the local market. What will the store owner tell me? Madam, if you want to exchange it, our policy is 3 days. You have to exchange within 3 days, and please bring the original bill. Similarly, when big companies give orders, they'll attach the bill for your reference. This is the bill, right? So that is called the enclosure. It will come after the signature and the name of the person, and it will be written as ENCL dot and then 1, 2, 3. Whatever documents you are attaching, it will come here. So these are the standard parts of a business letter. So which one of the following is not the standard element of a letter writing? The date, the salutation, the postscript, the complementary clause. Out of the 4 options given, which one is not a part of the standard letter? Excellent, you are absolutely correct, all of you. It's the postscript. So the postscript is one of the additional elements. So let's look at the additional elements. As I said, these elements are equally important like the standard elements, but they cannot be a part of each and every letter. This is like the special elements required in special cases, right? So let's see first the address notation. Now see, address notations are written in all capitals, and they are written in a space below the inside address. So below the inside address means below the receiver's address. So is it confidential? Is it personal? Please forward to, things like that would be written over here. Then you have a reference line. Now, when you are writing letters, continuous letters over a period of time, I might lose a track of what you are referring to. So instead of the subject line, I'll write the reference line. So with reference to your letter number and on this date. So I'm replying to this date letter. So always when somebody writes or drafts a letter, they also keep a copy for themselves. Right? When there's a long conversation going on through letters, we forget where did we exactly start. So for what is this person replying? So at that time, you will write the reference line. Let's say I've ordered a few pieces of furniture from some place outside Gujarat. What I received is not what I ordered. I'm supposed to give it back, and it's a bulk order. By a bulk order, I mean, see, we are not going to talk about one chair, one table. Remember, business letters, we are writing business letters. So it's not one chair, one table. It is 1,000 chairs, 2,000 tables, 3,000 stools, things like that, bulk orders. And so you refer to it that I did not receive. I had ordered 3,000 stools. You are giving me only 1,000 stool. Then the person sends a reply to you that sir will be sending soon. Then you also draft a reply that, see, I had told you in the initial first, when I placed the order, I told you that my college is going to start from the 15th of July. Now today is the 5th of July. How will I set up my classroom? So if it's going on for a long period, instead of the subject line, we'll write the reference. So reference would be your letter, which was, letter numbers are also there. Order number, with reference to the order number you can also write, and with reference to the date on which you have received the letter, or your letter dated. There's always a date. That's why, remember, I said you cannot avoid writing a date in the letter, because you also have to refer to it if it's a long conversation that goes on through the medium of letters. So that's when you write the reference line. Then reference initials. uh, this is actually written in the space below the signature. Certain companies have their own initials that are globally known. Let's say, for example, if I type the letter F on Google, it will show me Ford Motors. It will show me the logo of Ford Motors, right? So in the in the initial first few searches, it will show me Ford Motors, right? We are not supposed to use this, because we are not going to write letters on behalf of such global companies. We are going to write letters on behalf of local, but we should understand that this reference initial would also be there when the companies are just known by their initials. Let's say we'll talk about let's say McDonald's, that yellow colored M. Everybody, when you see the sign, you understand it is this company. That's I know I should not be recollecting McDonald's right now, but that's a sign we all know. Simple. Then if you take any other company, let's say Maruti Suzuki cars, that they have this angular S. You know from that alphabet itself it is this company. That's when you use this reference initial part if such a company is writing. Then copy notation. Copy notation is something similar to what we do in when we write emails. The CC, the carbon copy. Right? Let's say I'm writing a letter to the dean of the college, but I also want to give a copy of the same letter to the provost sir as well. What I do, I'll write also in my letter that I have given a copy to provost sir. A different copy has been provided to him. Right? So that's called copy notation. This is not required in all letters, but in letters which have serious matters or serious or controversial things where you need to keep certain people as a proof, that's where you use copy notation. Let's say copy notations would actually come from bank. You remember, I hope you know that when you apply for a loan, you have to mortgage certain things, or maybe there should be somebody who would uh, act on your behalf. One, two, if you get notifications from court, the district court or the high court, will not go to the supreme court, but the district court, when you got notifications, they'll always post a copy notation. They'll always tell that one copy has been sent to this person as well, right? So mailing notation, this is actually written on the envelope, or at times also written on the very top of the letter as well. By which mode have you sent the letter? We do not require to write this in our examination, but we should be aware about this part as well. So by registered post, or by courier, or by speed post, etc. Now the postscript, we better know it as capital P dot capital S dot PS. Now postscript actually is written, if you wish, that the receiver pays attention on a particular uh, portion or a particular thing in the letter. It actually helps to emphasize a particular message, and that is the last part of the letter. After you write the enclosure and you have written everything, at the end you write a postscript. Please see, English is a very nice language. The title which is given explains a lot. Postscript, there are two words. Post means after, script means whatever you have written in the structure after that. So now you can understand the position of this line. It would come at the very end. Let's say when you see this promotional ads coming, let's say one ice cream shop has opened, and in the opening week or the opening month they would give you some offer, 15% discount. But remember, they will write the discount offer is valid till 31st of July. So you have to pay attention. Okay, till 31st July, right? Okay, you cannot have it through the year, right? So postscripts are written so that attention or emphasis is laid on a specific information from the letter. So this you do not write every time. Let's say I place an order for I'm in an academic organization, I'm in a university, right? I want to place order for the books. Now I have to receive the books before the academic starts. So what do? I write to the book seller or the stationery from where I want to get the books, and at the end I will write PS. The books are required. Confirm the order if you are able to deliver the books within 25 days. So, or I require the books before the first week of August. Right? In such cases, that is why this is an additional element. In a special case only, we will require, or it is required to write the postscript. So, which is not an additional element in the letter writing. Out of the four options given, which is the one which is not an additional element? Excellent. You have paid good attention. Date line. Right? The date or the date line is not an additional element. It's a standard element of the business letter. Do we have any questions and queries before we move ahead with things? Great. We are clear with the structure. Now, I hope you'll be able to see that, most of you had written the address, but one of the addresses. Some of you might have written both the addresses. Some of us have written the date correctly, that is not in digits. Some of us might have written in digits, right? But now, with this, no questions. I understand that it is very clear how do you write the structure, or what is the structure of a letter. So 3.5 marks out of 70 are yours, right, if you have understood the structure properly. So as a part of our sessions for lectures and labs, it's a quiz, a small quiz, 5-minute quiz we have before we uh, do our practical for letter writing. There's a 5-minute quiz that you have. So I'll post the link of the quiz in the chat box. So there you go. You have your quiz link. You can start attempting your quiz now. Very good. I can see the entire lab batch has submitted the quiz for letters. Very good. So I just have a question for these three enrollment numbers. Enrollment number 121, 134, and 144. Are they present in today's lecture? Fine. The reason I'm asking is they have not marked a yes in the Coursera course enrollment. Yes, Shubham, have you marked yes? Have you enrolled yourself in the Coursera course? Why, may I ask, you have not done it? It is an important part. It carries 20 marks. If you do not remember, I'll help you recollect. Right, please enroll at the earliest, Shubham. And the other two friends as well, please ask them also to enroll at the earliest because it carries 20 marks. Just to inform you, yes, we have to enroll in all the three topics. It's a specialization course. So there'll be three topics, and to boost your moral to enroll, some of your friends have already completed all the three courses. A few of your friends have completed the courses, and some of us have yet not registered. See, please remember it is a huge, bulky section in the mark part, 20 marks. And right now, when you are enrolling through Marwari University invitation, you are not supposed to pay anything. So please make sure that you. I'll be telling about the certificate submission once I have a talk with the department and other faculties. Do not worry about that part. Please make sure some of your friends. I know we might have missed marking the yes and no. I had already informed in the lecture as well. So I'm again informing, if you have enrolled and you have forgotten to mark a yes in the Excel sheet, kindly do that. That is the way we are communicating, right? Because we are not meeting in person. We have selected this platform so that we can be in touch, and I know that how many of you have done it, right? See, please make sure that you do not miss on the part that we are not doing the course because it's an additional work. It is actually your internal work that you are doing. You are doing it for 20 marks. I do not know what else could motivate somebody. 20 marks is a big number. Out of 50 internal marks, 20 marks have been given to your course, the Coursera course. So make sure that you go back, look at the list, whether you have, sometimes we might have forgotten. We have already enrolled, we have already on the verge of completing the course, but here you have not marked a yes, it means that it's a no. So that's how I would understand it, right? So make sure, go back to the document, enrollment in a Coursera course, and see that you have registered there. It's really, really important. Now, what we need to do in letters. Theory I have taught. Now, if you look at the syllabus, there are different kinds of letters. Now, there's a variety which is given to us, which are all in one way or the other way related to, they are all related to business. Beginning from the very first thing, inquiry letter, and then moving forward. Now, what we will do and how we will work. I've taught you the theory. Now it's all a matter of practice. So each week, I hope now you are accustomed to using the shared folder, right? So right now, if you look at the shared folder within lab batch C and then topic letters, you will see a new folder that I have generated, which is called letters practice. Letters practice. And there you will see our first practice letter, which is known as the inquiry letter. Let me do one thing. I'll share my screen with you so that right away, if you do not open your uh, shared folder, it is fine. So now I hope you are able to see my screen now. And this is the screen that you can see. It's our screen from where we are communicating. Now let me move back to the letter part. Now if you see, I will go from the beginning so it's easier. So this is the class that I have shared with you. Lab batch C, letters formal, and then at the very end you can see letters practice, and then there is an Excel file which has already been uploaded. Now if you see, there are 3 tabs in the file. Right, please be very careful. There are 3 tabs. So tab number 1 is the instruction tab. So I'll explain for one letter how we are working. Then we'll be writing, every person in the class or every person in the lab batch has to write one sample of every type of every type of letter. So almost each person will be having a practice of writing 6 to 8 letters, right? That, do not worry, do not require all the 8 letters in 1 week, one letter a week. So every week I'll be posting a, Excel sheet like this. So for this week it is inquiry letters, for next week it will be order letters, and so on and so forth. So in every lab session I'll remind you, do not worry, but you need to keep checking and you need to do the work. Now remember, here I will not allow you to type the letter. You are supposed to write the letter, not type it, so that we do not lose the touch of writing entirely. Right? So you are supposed to write the letter, click a photograph, convert it into a PDF, label it as inquiry letter, and upload in your in the folder with your name. Let's say everybody's name folders are already here. We already have it. Everyone has one letter. Pujan does not have one. Okay. Let's say letter 1 is already here. So the way you have written letter 1 in that PDF that you upload, it should be written as inquiry letter. And you have to drop your inquiry letter in your folder only. Don't drop it in somebody else's folder. Right? Let's see what the instructions are. So instruction number 1, you are supposed to work in a pair. See, every letter will have 2 aspects. One where you are writing the letter, and 2 where you are getting the reply. One where you are writing the letter, 2 where you are getting the reply. In both the cases, certain words remain the same, certain things change. So we are supposed to draft it in 2 ways. Remember, the role of people will change. Let's say somebody is drafting a letter this time, like then the next time that person will be drafting a reply. Do not worry, both kinds of letters you will be exposed to, you are supposed to write, right? So one of you would be drafting the letter and one of you would be replying to that draft, right? That is why I'm saying this is a practice session, so we don't require all the letters together at once. 1 week of time given, so that is till next Friday you have the time to write your inquiry letter, because on next Friday I'll upload the next type, right? It would be going 1 week from 1 week, right? Second, you have to use the information that is provided in the question. Please read the question very carefully. Sometimes we'll be giving the name, that every information will be there that you require. Now what happens at times to confuse us, letter writing is a very simple activity we have been doing since years. Now we know the structure as well. How do I make the question hard? I make the question hard by keeping certain information incomplete. Let's say I just write that Marwadi University Rajkot requires is drafting an inquiry letter for the furniture of its lab to Parin Furnitures. Draft a suitable inquiry on behalf of Marwadi University. Now, if you see, In the structure, we need a full address. We also require a pin code that I have not mentioned in the question. Now, when students practice, they say, okay, this much information, only that much. Remember, remember, remember. Such questions are actually twisters. They are given so that you also add something from your side. One. Two, never forget the university is not dumb. The university did not give the pin code, so I did not write the pin code. No, the university is actually smart. Here, they are trying to test whether you remember the structure well or not. Whatever happens, in any case, do not deviate from the structure. Remember, do not deviate from the structure. Then we'll be complaining, I wrote everything correctly, then also less marks. But did you write the pin code? Did you write the name of the city? Did you write the proper designation? Somebody from Marwadi University is writing. So did you write the header? Did you write the tagline? Right? This is how letter writing, though seems to be a simple activity and a very simple question that can be asked in the university, this is how you have bouncers and twisters in this kind of questions. Simply deviating from the structure would deduct your marks. So remember, if you see that the information is incomplete with regard to the structure, you complete it. The university has intentionally left information out to test whether you remember the structure properly or not. Right? So let's say I have given an example. The full address and the pin code are missing. Add these details from your side, keeping in mind the basic rules for those details. Let's say pin codes are 6-digit numbers. So don't write more or less, as I said, but invent the detail. Now, some questions after information, they write that draft an inquiry letter to Parin Furnitures on behalf of Marwadi University to inquire for furniture required in a language lab or furniture required in a computer lab. And then the university states, or the question paper also states one more line: invent necessary details wherever it is required. Invent necessary details wherever it is required. When I say invent details, I'm giving you a hint. Furniture. Do you write? I'm going to draft it to the sales manager of Parin Furnitures. Dear madam, our university requires certain furniture for a computer lab. Can you please give a quotation for it? No. What do I do? When I say invent necessary details, here I am supposed to actually tell her which piece of furniture is required. I have to be specific. Do I require a pushback chair? Do I require a stool? Do I require tables? Do I require a podium? Do I require a projector stand? What do I require? Do I require curtains? Do I require computer covers? Do I require mouse pads? What? So, different things which you require. When they say you are supposed to invent the details wherever necessary, it should have specification. Specification, by specification, I mean the size, the color, the amount in which you require, the quantity. At times, you might also require technical specification. The way when you buy a laptop or a mobile phone for yourself, right? So keep these things in mind. Keep these things in mind when you are drafting your letter. And the last instruction says kindly draft the letter, and you can see in the bracket it's written handwritten, and upload in PDF format in the Google folder that we have shared with you, with the file name with your name and enrollment number, or you can draft it as an inquiry letter, right? So that is instructions. Now, if you see, the second tab says guidelines. Do not worry, I'm not going to leave you on your own. There's a guideline given to you. Let's say there are two types of inquiry letters that we are supposed to write. One, you have to draft an inquiry letter, and two, you have to draft an reply to the inquiry letter. So what elements will you use in both the cases? So let's see case number one, drafting an inquiry letter. So what do I do there? See, this is an outline which I have made. You have to draft it in the form of sentences. So first thing, you have to state the purpose of your letter and what goods or services do you require. You have to introduce yourself. So I belong, or I am the manager of the material department. I am the manager of the infrastructure department, whatever. And how did you come to know about the product? So how did you come to know that Parin Furnitures, or let's say I'm taking an example of a furniture company, right? So Parin Furnitures is a very well known name in Rajkot. You are known for your furnitures, and that's why we wish to purchase. That's how you can frame the sentence. This is an approximation. You can frame it in the way you like, but just to give you an example, describe your needs clearly. Give specifications clearly in case of a size, shape, color, or if you have a catalog. See, every item will have a catalog or a brochure. Every company would have it, right? In case you don't have item codes, it is fine. So in that case, what you can do is you can write to the person that can you please send the catalog, or can you mention the send along a brochure for other products, right? Then the following five things you are supposed to ask. When it is an inquiry letter, it is inevitable to ask the following five things. One, the terms of payment. Do I pay it by cash, by check, or any other mode? Then, do I pay the whole amount when I place the order? Do I pay the amount when I receive my products? Or how do I make the payment? See, certain companies have a policy that you have to pay 25% of the amount in advance. You ask about the policy. Second, you ask about the mode of delivery. Will they be delivering at your place? Will you have to collect it? How will it work? Then the packaging part. By packaging part, I mean here you ask, will it be well packed? I hope I receive the products in a fairly well uh, packed manner, things like that. No, will it be a cargo packing? Will it be a box packing? Whatever. Then credit. Companies work on credit. So if a business that we are doing, right, not necessary you make the payment right away. Certain companies have a 30-day market credit that you receive the product, after 30 days you can make the payment. Certain other companies have 45 days. Certain means the number of days of credit differs, right? So you can ask about the credit, and you can ask about the time limit. By time limit, I mean into how many days are you going to deliver? And you have to be very specific over here. Why? Because certain companies do not work on weekends. So when they say we'll deliver in 15 working days, and when somebody says we'll be delivering the product in 15 days, there is a huge difference. By 15 working days, they mean they're not delivering on Saturday and Sunday. They are working 5 days a week. So in that 15 days, you have to add 4 more days. Why? Because 2 Saturday Sundays would move out of the 15-day time that they have given, because they don't work on a Saturday Sunday. So approximately, if you're counting Saturday and Sunday in your week, they'll be making a delivery of the product by 20 days. Right? So the estimation does not go wrong when you draft an inquiry. Now, when you draft a reply to the same inquiry letter, you acknowledge the receipt of the letter of inquiry. So, sir, we have received your letter of inquiry on this day. We thank you for making an inquiry with us. Right? Let's say when we do it on the telephone, same thing we do. right? When we are inquiring about something on the telephone, when you inquire, right, they'll say, thank you so much for showing interest in our company and the products of our company, right? And sir, we have received your written message about the inquiry. How may I help you? What are your concerns? That's what we do on the phone. Similarly, don't write how may I help you over here, because you're drafting and you're helping the person by drafting a reply. Just acknowledge that we received your letter dated 15th July, or we received your letter today, because when you write today, you already written a date over there on the, after the heading, you have written a date, right? Thank the party for showing interest in your products and having trust in your company. Quote the price, right? Whatever they have sent, you quote the price for it. And certain companies, you, if you buy one pen, it would cost you 10 rupees. If it is costing 10 rupees, you buy five, let's say you buy a packet of pen, one packet, they might give you some 1 rupee or 2 rupee discount. But if you are buying it in bulk, remember I said we are not going to buy one packet or two packet of pens, we are not going to buy one or two chairs, right? You are going to inquire as a part of a huge organization. So organizations don't order one chair and two chair, okay? So they're going to order something in a bulk. So for bulk orders, they might offer special discounts. Like even if you see Amazon also has uh, offers. Flipkart also has offers. You know, if you pay with a credit card, additional 5% off. uh, if you, they also at certain period of time would give you discount coupons, right? So if your company is offering such coupons, mention those, and mention those very clearly. Don't write we offer discount only on pen and not on books. We offer 10% discount, and when the person places an order, you say only on books, not on pen. It's a mention. So you can mention that there's an additional monsoon festive that we have, and you know, you have inquired at the very appropriate time, so you might, we might be able to give you discount coupons for your next purchase. Or sir, you have already ordered, or you have inquired for 2000 pens, but I would suggest if you increase the number, we'd be able to give you some additional discount as well. So we'll be able to give you 10% additional discount on the overall bill, right? So mention that. Then, whether the drafter of the inquiry letter, the sender of the inquiry letter, is asked or not, these five things the reply should have. The ones which in an ideal inquiry letter you should ask, then this. Apart from that, you mention in the letter, if you have also attached, or if you have enclosures of the price list, the catalog, or the samples. You know, some companies would give you small samplers, right? That you have to mention and tell them that we'll be sending a sample separately. Apart from your order, before you place an order, we'll send you a sample, right? And lastly, when you are in the concluding paragraph, try to win the trust of the sender. Try to convince the sender to place a confirmed order from your organization by highlighting your organization's goodwill. Now, remember over here, in this inquiry letter, as I said, every letter in the main body will have three paragraphs. Here in the inquiry letter, the second paragraph should not be a paragraph, it should be a table. Let me tell you why. There you are supposed to mention the products that you want to order. See, if I write the product in a paragraph, it will be very hard to decipher. Instead, I should order products, I should inquire about products in a tabular format, right? So it should have a minimum of 4 columns and X number of rows, whatever you require. But a minimum of 3 to 4 products you should inquire about. So first column should be titled as the SR number 1, 2, 3, 4. Second, the name of the product. So a table, a chair, whatever. Third column should be the specification. So what kind of chairs do you require? should be a roller chair or should be a chair without tires, whatever. And column number 4, the quantity in which you require it. 4,000. No, I require both the kinds of chairs, chairs with the rolling wheels, or the chairs with wheels and chairs without wheels. So that I'll mention in the specification and then the quantity. Right now, when you are drafting a reply, you have to do the same. You have to have in the second paragraph, you don't have a paragraph, you have a table. So whatever products the person has asked for, that, and then you'll add a fifth column which says the price quotation or the quotation for it. So there you can either it is very very important to write over there per piece. Not now, but before, most of us would have visited this huge malls, different malls that we have in Rajkot. If you see the price tag, they'll show you that if you buy one piece, the price is 100 rupees. If you're buying two pieces, so per piece, your price reduces to 90 rupees. This is just an example I am giving. So you have to write the price per piece. And when you give the additional discount, you can say that, after 10% of additional discount, the price reduces to 120 rupees per piece. So always give the price per piece. Now, madam, I am supposed to write or draft a reply to a stationery requirement. And in one of them, they have asked for A4 size paper. Do I write per piece of paper? No. Please, make it sound real. You don't ask for per piece, you ask for per bundle. So mention it, right? Per box. Pen also, you will not mention one piece, right? Let's say tables and chairs. You cannot mention a box of table and a box of chair, or boxes of table and boxes of chair. There you have to mention per piece, right? But when you have items such as pencils, pens, uh, printing papers, notebooks, right? Notebooks, again, you can write per dozen, because most of the time notebooks are in dozens, 12, right? But if you take a printing paper, it is per a bundle, right? So make appropriate changes wherever it is required. Don't write everywhere per piece. Now let's see the last tab. This is actually where you can see your name and the question assigned to you. And you can see who is drafting a reply to you, right? Right now, what I have done is I have made you into pairs according to the enrollment number. Now, what will happen? Madam, whoever with I'm paid has not written the letter. How will I draft the reply? Right? You do your job. You do not worry about the other person writing or not. You imagine, okay, this person has asked me about, you can see the question, what has been asked or what the person will ask. You assume that this person wrote a letter like this, and that's why I'm replying like this. You are responsible for your letter only, because a letter can be written in two different ways. That is why, to pair up the question, it has been drafted in this way. In case the pair with which you are, or the pair with whom you are working, does not draft his or her letter, that is not your problem. All right? You assume, you read the question for which you are drafting a reply. You assume that the letter was written in this way. You draft your reply and be sure to put up your letter writing over there. Be sure to complete your task. And please be sure to complete on time. Right? I hope I am clear about this letter writing. Right? It's in the same folder where we have made lab batches. It is already there. Still, if we have any queries, you can always feel free to drop me a message or drop an email. You can also call me during proper hours. What I mean is by 6 in the evening, and in the morning after 7:30 you can give me a call. I'll be happy to help you with any queries. No, you are not supposed to submit all the letters right away. Right now, for this 1 week, from this Friday to next Friday, the letter you are supposed to submit is an inquiry letter. Against your name, you have a question that only you are supposed to attempt for inquiry letter. Next Friday, I'll upload the order letter. After that, I'll upload the next letter, right? And your partners will keep on changing. Don't worry. Right now, what I have done is I've taken it enrollment number wise. We'll be keep changing partners. Fine. And in case your partner, as I said, if he or she does not write the letter, that's not your problem, right? You assume. Why partnership? Because you have to draft a reply to something which has been written to you. So you refer to the question that is written as the pair question. You refer to the pair question and you write your reply, right? Don't worry. And be very sure that people who are drafting the inquiry letter will be drafting the reply in the next kind of a letter. That's how we will work. We want you to understand the writings of both the kinds, that is drafting a straight letter and drafting a reply to it, because the university may ask it either ways, right? So you have time till next Friday. Till this Saturday, I think you were supposed to draft a technical description and submit it. If you do not remember, I give you a reminder for that. You are supposed to draft a technical description. You can already see there is a folder of technical description just besides labs A, B, and C. I can already see four of the students have already submitted or are in the process of submitting it. They have already drafted it. Right? So that's nice to see that you are working on things. That's excellent. So now I'll take the attendance. Still, if we have any queries, you can feel free to ask me anytime. Appropriate time is what I'll say. So attendance, enrollment number 102, 103, 106, 108, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 125, 131, 134, and 144. In case you know the students 134 and 144, that is Jay Prajapati and Aditi Shah, they have not been attending lab since last 3 weeks. They have not been attending. Jay, you are present. Okay. Last 2 weeks you were not there. Jay, have you enrolled for your Coursera course? Jay, have you enrolled for the Coursera course? Okay, in case you have not, please enroll at the earliest. You'll be able to access the course through an Marwadi invitation. Yeah, if you have attempted it, kindly draft a yes in the sheet that is already shared. There it shows that you have not attempted because it's blank, right? Make sure if you have attempted, if you have enrolled, you mark a yes. And kindly pass the message to other students of your class as well. They might have enrolled, but they have forgotten to mark a yes. So if you don't mark a yes in the Excel sheet, I might be considering it as a no if it is blank, right? So please do that. So thank you, class. Have yourself a very nice day. Thank you.